Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great IncrediChat here tonight. We've got a really great guest, and we're going to get started both here on Facebook, YouTube, and we're going to be going over to Instagram in a minute. But what we want you to do, make sure you like and follow us, and share. And on our guests, we're going to give all their information out there once they come. But please welcome in first my co-host for tonight. You've seen him before, my buddy, Vinny Retta. Hello, Vinny.
Hello. What's going on, man?
And I'm doing great tonight. And tonight we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to be talking pop culture, toys, all kinds of cool stuff. You've seen her posts. I know if you follow all this stuff online. Welcome to tonight's IncrediChat. Ladies and gentlemen, Loryn Stone. Welcome, Loryn.
Hello. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us tonight. This is great. Everybody sees you online and you do these great posts, these great coverages. And just for everybody watching right now, check out toywizards.com and then troublemakerservices.com. You see those things scrolling on there, and we're getting ready to go over on Instagram. So if you're following us there too, that'd be great. But Loryn, I guess the first thing, and Vinny, you can add into this as well. How did you get into pop culture? How did you get into toys and writing this stuff? Where did this begin?
Okay, the origin story.
The origin.
All right. Well, I went to college for creative writing. So like writing has always been my jam. It's always. Let me turn my sound off.
Cool. And Vinny's sending an invite over there too. Cool.
There we go. Just gonna make sure I don't interrupt myself.
No worries.
All right, sorry guys.
No worries. The fun of working from home, right? This is the beauty of it.
I just don't want to hear feedback. I'm very loud. and I can very easily interrupt myself. Okay. All right.
So yeah. So how did you get into this?
So the origin story. So basically, I went to school for creative writing. I've been writing all my life. Let me know if there's feedback on my end. I turned down my volume, but
yeah, no, you're good.
Okay. So when you go to school for writing and when you've been writing all your life, you assume that you want to write books. And that's kind of the easy thing to do is like, I'm going to write books one day. It's just a very generic, broad thing. Let's see here. Am I still good on the Instagram?
Yeah, you're great.
Okay. My phone darkened. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm trying my best. All right. So basically, after college and after my mom died in 2015, I was like, you only live once. I need to get my writing out. I said I wanted to be a writer. I can't be afraid of anything. Like all you got to do is jump, like Aladdin and just do the thing. So I was reading a lot of crack.com at the time. And I was like, can I do something like that too? So I started submitting my articles to crack.com and they started accepting them. And I maybe wrote like 9 articles for them before I sort of just couldn't hit the voice anymore. And that's no disrespect to Cracked, but it was like just such a good thing to cut my teeth on. So me being me, I'm like, I still have so much to say. I'm going to start up my own thing. And it really worked. And that was PopLurker. So I started at PopLurker and I was just writing my own things kind of in the listicle style of Cracked. It became sort of a collaborative. I had writers writing for me. It was really, really cool. And that I found that I was able to successfully build a brand. So I was just doing kind of general pop culture at that time. And again, kind of nostalgic listicles and stuff. And from there, I used PopLurker to get into conventions. I was like, I'm going to get into conventions for free and do convention reviews. Like I was really sneaky. And so then at a convention, I met my business partner, Scott. We became really good friends. I did freelance writing for him on his conventions. And from there, helped with his shows, I was hired freelance for some other local shows in the area. And just doing things, press, volunteer coordination, etc. So eventually, this will go to Toy Wizards, I promise. Long story short, between the pop culture writing and the convention, then I started getting into the convention scene. And from there, I do collect toys. And Scott pitched this idea to me. Hey, why don't, I've always wanted to do this like toy blog, but I don't know how to make it do that. And I was like, well, I built PopLurker. Let's try with your idea. And it was Toy Wizards. And we went into beta December 2018 and launched January 2019. And it's just been enormous ever since. It just exploded. And it has been such a cool opportunity. And the whole thing is just this umbrella of like brands and experiences with PopLurker and Toy Wizards, and it goes into the convention work, and it's just this like perfect ecosystem that I never could have planned for. And so that's where we are today.
Nice. And you've kind of done it all with the conventions and just your writing background stuff. And I mean, toys, and I guess Vinny and I will talk about toys in a minute. But I'm gonna ask you, what was your favorite toy growing up?
My favorite toy growing up. Oh, it depends on my age, and a lot of like humble roots, man. Like I tell the story that like when I was 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, I was in love with the Power Rangers, but I couldn't afford the toys. Like I didn't realize that there were toys on the shelf. So I would like take markers and pencils in the respective colors, and like those were my Power Rangers. And I would like collect because I was living in Israel at the time. So I would collect like chocolate bar wrappers and bubblegum cards with like the actors, because Power Rangers got really popular over there too. And so there was like all these different like products with the wrappers and stuff. And I would like put them in like notebooks. So I had like collections of pop culture things when I couldn't afford the toys. But to answer the question directly, I really liked Barbies as a kid, and I played a lot of video games. It was like Barbies and video games and books. I was, if you remember like serialized novels from the 90s, I had stacks of just horror novels. So really, I was a book reader. I was a bookie. And I would play with anything. Like I said, colored marbles were now characters. Pencils were now characters. Sporks. I painted Sporks in the Sailor Moon character colors because I couldn't afford the Sailor Moon dolls. And that was life.
So you had the original Forky then, didn't you?
I did. I had Forky and Sporky before it was cool.
That's awesome. I was a spoiled brat, so I was running around with all my action figures. Typical 80s kid,
I got any video game I wanted. All the Mario games, Sonic. We had every system leading up to like 1994 when I asked for the Atari Jaguar. And my mom finally put her foot down. She's like, no. She's like, my mom didn't know a lot about video games, but she had the foresight to be like, that's a piece of crap. You're not getting it. She's like, you have a Game Gear and a Nintendo and Genesis and a Super Nintendo. She's like, you're done. You're fine.
Well, and it's funny, and Vinny, I don't know if you did this too, but like when you were mentioning all those things there, Loryn, you brought me back to my childhood, and I mean, like I'm a big Hanna-Barbera fan, and like at this point, like I have a whole collection of Hanna-Barbera toys, and probably in like the last like 15, 20 years, they've put out like toys like finally after like 50 years they make a Quick Draw McGraw action figure, but like you, a lot of these characters that they didn't have toys of, I used to draw the characters and then cut them out and then play with them, like all the Disney afternoon characters, all like Gargoyles, DuckTales, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Back when we were kids, they didn't make those toys. Scooby-Doo, there were no Scooby-Oo toys, and I love Scooby-Doo, so I made the characters myself, much like yourself.
Yeah, I would make paper dolls, and there were still paper doll books back then. But yeah, I would draw paper dolls and cut them out and make clothes. Like I was really into doing that, but it was a lot of dolls. I had a lot of I was really, as far as 80s things goes, like I liked Moon Dreamers, I liked Spectra. My sisters were more into Gem. I was a little young for Gem. And I'm not young. Like I was born in 85. Like I'm 35 years old. Not going to play the like, gee, I'm too young to remember anything before 95. Like I'm not going to play that game. But there's just certain things that like, I didn't get my evil in until later.
Gem was just losing its popularity, I think, in 85, 86. So
Right.
Yeah.
I had a Transformer as a kid. I remember that. I did have an Optimus Prime.
You have to. It's a must.
Showed up somehow.
Well, and it's funny. So we've already talked Transformers and we've talked Power Rangers. And I know, Loryn, we talked about this beforehand. I'm sure, Vinny, you've seen these. Talking about Power Rangers and Optimus Prime. I mean, let's get right into it. Let's talk about what Hasbro Pulse released or announced last week, right? Because there's some cool toys. And let's start with Optimus Prime. I mean, I never had an Optimus Prime, so maybe you two can speak to that one.
I didn't know he was an Optimus Prime until years later. I think it came in like a bag of toys that like my mom's friend said, hey, my kid's done with these, here you go. And there was a transforming robot in the mess that was my playroom, which I am assuming was an Optimus Prime. I played with it. I loved it. I liked moving it around. It was fun, but
it's funny now because retroactively, Transformers are like my favorite toys, and I did have them as a kid, but they were probably my least played with. Like, I think I was pretty much a big G.I. Joe fan as a small kid. But what I used to do, kind of back to what you were doing with your forks and Mike was doing with his paper, I used to take apart my G.I. Joes and I used to customize them because you used to be able to unscrew them and take the arms and legs apart, and they had the rubber bands. So you could like actually take all your Joes and customize. So I had tons of G.I. Joes, but none of them were they're all mix and match. I could never be able to sell them to anybody. They're all like different legs and different heads. And I used to do that. I don't know if I think I was the only kid that ever did that. There had to be other kids that did that.
I've heard of other kids taking heads off, but like I was destructive with my Barbies. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I would cut their hair. Barbie's legs used to be made of rubber, and I was like, I've talked about it in some of my like review videos. It's no secret that like I had a lot of sensory issues, so I was the kid that chewed on everything. And if you chewed on Barbie's hand, her hand would like stretch, like all scary, like Junji Ito comics. And if you bit off her leg, there was like robot limbs, like the framing. So like I would bite. I was weird.
Horrific. That's pretty horrific.
Yeah, no, I was a very destructive kid, and I didn't mean to destroy my toys, but she was made of rubber. But so I would. That was my customizing.
Well, and we we're talking about a lot of these shows, Gem and like Transformers. I mean, the Disney Afternoon Gargoyles, things like that. The toy line, like, and that's the thing. It's like when we were kids, Saturday mornings were really the ultimate commercial, right? Like everything we watched was or for the most part was a toy, right? And now we look at toy collecting. Now kids today really don't have toys, which is kind of sad, right? But the toys I've seen have been a shift now, right? Because they're not really making them for kids. Like I think, was it NECA just announced that awesome Goliath figure from Gargoyles. I mean, is that being sold? Is that being made for kids, or is that being made for us? Right?
No, it's for you. NECA's not making anything. I was gonna say, I asked this with no disrespect. Do you have kids?
I do.
You do? Okay. So, yeah. How old are they?
My son is 8.
All right, my son is 8, and my daughter is 6. There's all sorts of like toys based on TV shows, like that JoJo, all those JoJo toys.
Oh yeah, JoJo and Bluey.
Over the Moon, that fantastic movie Over the Moon. There was a whole section at Walmart for it. When people say there's no toys at Walmart, they just mean there's no toys on the action figure aisle. But if you look at like the I know we were talking about Hasbro Fan Fest. We'll get back to that. But if you look at the like Transformers that's actually on TV or on Netflix, there's toys for that on the shelves. Toys geared toward children, those Cave Club toys. There was a corresponding show the animated experience on YouTube, and those toys are on the shelves. I think it's bold. And we all say it, and I say it sometimes too, but I think it's bold that we're like, there's no, kids don't play with toys today. I'm telling you, as a toy journalist, after I review anything, my daughter steals it. If I don't give it away or donate it, which I do for many of my things, my daughter steals it. I have to clean out her toy chest every like 3 weeks because it just accumulates. She loves toys. She loves toys. And she likes old toys too, Raggedy Ann. Yeah. And The Wizard of Oz. Like, it's pretty eclectic. So I can't use my daughter as the norm, as like the example, because I know there are kids who just want to play with electronics. But I maintain that even when we were kids, there were kids who only wanted to play video games, and there were kids who only wanted to read books. So
it does seem like that, like a lot of the IP that we were fans of growing up, the big three, like G.I. Joe, He-Man, Masters of the Universe, It seems like they tried to reinvent those for younger generations, and it doesn't seem like those are sticking. Like, I do see like a lot of the action figure aisles are really aimed towards older collectors,
Adults.
you know, and adults. And I wonder sometimes, like, if kids, like my sons are anywhere, I start at 21 and they go to 11. So my oldest is 21 and I have an 11-year-old as well. I have 5 boys.
Okay.
And out of those 5 boys, really only like 2 of them were ever interested in toys, like playing with toys, especially action figures. And they definitely got a heavy dose of exposure for me because, like, I was in the aisle all the time and I was always kind of like, hey, you know, are you interested in this? And try to bring new things to them. For the most part, they didn't seem to, all of them didn't really seem to, they do like Marvel, they do like DC. They'll buy, you know, if they see a movie and, you know, they'll pick up an action figure, but more of it's like decoration for their room.
Yeah.
They're not breaking out their Deadpool and their Batman and their Harley Quinn and playing in the backyard. Like, when I was a kid, my favorite activity, even though I had every video game system, was like throwing all my Joes in a bucket and grabbing a shady tree in the backyard and playing, you know, and playing. Like,
Yes.
That doesn't seem to be, I don't see a lot of, like, at least in my experience, I don't see kids doing that with the action figure stuff as much. But there are some IPs that I think have translated, and I think Power Rangers is one of them.
Yeah, you know, talking about kids who like go and take toys outside and have adventures. Yeah, my son plays with his Pokemon like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just really depends on the kid and like what they're into. But that is a good point.
You know, and the one thing thinking about kids here too, and I mean, you said you have an 8-year-old, I have an 8-year-old son. Like right now, he's really into the Imaginext line and the DC Imaginext line, and like you know and I mean, and this goes for even some of the other properties, Power Rangers, you know, because there's so many of these great Power Ranger toys out there, Star Wars, you know, any the Marvel stuff. Like, there are certain lines then too. So like my son, he's really, like I said, into the DC thing. So Imaginext puts out these figures, but and it goes for any line, and he really wants like Black Canary, right? But the thing is we can never find a Black Canary because there's the people our age, and like I think for them, for kids, what some people our age are doing are kind of ruining that experience. Like when we were kids, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, you can go into Toys R Us and whatever, and if you wanted to get Boba Fett, if you wanted to get Snake Eyes and stuff, those things were readily available on the store. Like I mean, talking about the action figure line at Walmart, like Masters of the Universe, right? Like my nephew, he's 10 years old. He's like, oh, can I get He-Man and Skeletor? Those are the only 2 figures he can ever find, because on the secondary market, you know, Stratos and Scareglow are all like $50, $70, you know, and it's sad. And you work with you communicate with the toy companies. What have you heard from them about this? Like, you know, getting
the toy scalper,
the toys, getting them in the hands of the kids as opposed to the scalpers, because, you know, and this goes back to when we were kids too. There were always like those like, especially like the 90s, that was a big thing, like the X-Men, like there'd be one Professor X or one Storm in the case, you know, and they really weren't marketing those to the kids. What are your thoughts on that?
Assortments.
My thoughts on that, to be perfectly honest with you, and this is going to be unpopular opinion, is that the scalper with a capital S is a boogeyman that does not exist to the extent that everyone convinces themselves that it does. I'm not saying scalping doesn't happen. The truth of the matter is, because there's no toy stores, these stores aren't ordering more than like 2 cases, and that's it. Target doesn't want to fill their toy aisle with your G.I. Joes. They want to sell towels. You know what I mean? That's
true.
That's most of it. So that's not to say you don't have older fans who wait until opening to go snag that toy. Yes, that happens. But even when they get there, often, how many did they really get? A lot of times in toy groups, what I see also is a picture and like, hey guys, I'm at this Walmart and there's like 5 of this. Who needs one? I'm doing a mitzvah. So you're not a scalper, you're doing a favor. So there's justifications, man, is really how I feel. But is distribution terrible right now? Yes. Do stores like Target and Walmart not order enough product? Yes, because it's not their priority. Is it always a pain when we hear that something is a Walmart or a Target exclusive? Mm-hmm. Yes, because those allocations of online pre-orders are like that many, And then the idea is that they then distribute the rest to the store so that they can, so that we, the commoner, we, the peasant, can hunt and find them on the shelf, but we're never going to because they've pre-sold this many, and then they manufactured this many and sent them to a map this big.
So
those are the trends that I see working in this industry. That said, even as recently as, was it yesterday? This week, Scott did an interview, had a meeting with the G.I. Joe team at Hasbro, who still understands what the issues are with distribution, wants to make more Cobra Islands more readily available. There's been alluding that it might be or should be a second print on like the Baroness. That's been a conversation. So like our voices are heard. And now it's just an issue of how long does it take to print those copies, put them in the box, and ship them to our stores. We have to wait for rollover time.
Yeah.
A lot of people say there's no way Hasbro wasn't going to know that these were going to smash it big. I don't know what to say about that. We can't blame them. And people are like, but they knew what G.I. Joe was going to be amazing. Well, there hadn't been Joe on the shelf for a little bit, and it's a tender topic when you're putting something on the shelf again for the first time in a while.
I have a really good friend who's a huge G.I. Joe fan, and would be considered like a G.I. Joe quote unquote expert. And we have a lot of conversations about how Hasbro handles the G.I. Joe line and doesn't ever seem to know, in a world where military figures are not, and heroes with machine guns are not necessarily the hottest item to be pushing. It just seems like outside of ninjas, Hasbro can't figure out how to market it without making it seem like a super violent toy. That's why the robots sell so well. Transformers is just exploding as a line.
They're fantastical. They're fantastic toys.
Right. So, having these soldier guys and heroes and that, especially in this day's climate as adults, it just seems like they haven't been able to figure out what to do with G.I. Joe for a while. And it's the older school fans are really frustrated because they look at what is happening with Transformers and they're like, this is just an amazing line. You guys are doing so much stuff, nostalgia, new stuff, large figures, small figures, and then they can't even find a Firefly.
Well, and I think that goes in, and Loryn, you could probably talk to this too. I think with some of the toy lines too, and this was definitely back in our youth when they were like doing the Batman the Animated Series or the Justice League lines, right? Like you can go into any store and you'd be able to find plenty of Batmans and Supermans, right? But like if you wanted Flash, Green Lantern, or Hawk Girl, you couldn't find those. But I guess the way that they make these things, what's mom going to buy? What's recognizable to mom? Superman and Batman. That's what I always hear is a recognizable thing, But even with some of like the other lines, like going deep into like Transformers or into G.I. Joe, heck, even look at Star Wars, like going back to the Hasbro Pulse thing. I think a lot of people were expecting a lot from those Hasbro Pulse announcements. And like the video game things, and we're gonna get Cal from the video game, and it's just like kind of like all reprints or repurposes of characters we've already gotten.
Hey, repaints, man, it's the key to the business. I don't understand why people get so mad about repaints. It's been happening since we were kids. There's like 50 of the same Transformer when we were kids. We all love them.
But oh my god, right? Like how many Starscream repaints are there?
Right. That's why I'm like people are always like bitching about repaints, and I'm like, we grew up the Masters of the Universe line.
Well, that's all
an entire line of repaints. It's just like this guy's head on this guy's legs on this guy's. It's like, all right, man, whatever.
Well, take a look at Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, right? Friar Tuck has a Gamorrean guard's body.
Oh, Kenner, yeah, they reused that Star Wars line so much.
Yeah, but we have a couple of questions and comments I just want to throw out here because we're rocking them. People are digging this tonight. Eddie, my buddy Eddie from Grand Slam Comedy, he wants to know, Loryn, do you think the toys of today will be part of pop culture 20 or 30 years from now? How important do you think action figures, etc., will be since today is almost all about electronics? You talked a little bit about that already, but do you think people are going to go back and look at today's figures?
We're sort of in a place of arrested development. So I think that, things like if we're talking about kids' toys, I'm sure there'll be something that is made right now that slips through the cracks. And in 20, 30 years, it'll be like, do you remember that toy line that like no one bought? I have the whole wave. And like, you might have weird situations like that. Even just recently, I was going through my closet and, we've been doing Toy Wizards for a couple of years. And one of the very first things I was sent to review was literally an entire line of action figures. And I opened them up and I barely remembered these things. And I was just like, these are insane. I've got to hold on to them forever now. Because like in 40 years, no one will remember them. And so, you're always going to have like your convention exclusives that in 20 years, I think will be really highly revered. You're always going to have like things that kind of did something fun, but it's hard to predict, what 20, 30 years is going to look like. Like what did 20, 30 years ago look like? You have 90s toys on the card that are worth nothing, you do. You have toys like, for example, I have some Sky Dancers in the box, and because they're now a banned toy, are worth something.
Yeah.
Before they weren't. You have people who thought that this specific toy on card was going to be worth something, and it's like, no, it's $5. There's still toys from the 90s on card that are.
You mean those Phantom Menace toys?
I was thinking Jar Jar Binks too.
I remember when those came out. I was
14 years ago.
Oh God, I was 14 volunteering at a comic book store when that movie was coming out, and I remember all the merchandise.
It was a lot. There was a lot.
Oh my God, it was so funny. It was
sometimes
so funny.
would love to see, like, I love to see the analytics of this stuff. I would love to just hang out in like a Hasbro boardroom and see what the trends are for buying these things. I know that Star Wars is going to be an evergreen property, right? Like our kids are addicted to it. Their kids are going to be addicted to it. And they'll probably be able to keep going back to that well ever and ever. But it seems like they haven't been able to recapture that, Hasbro in particular, with even with a brand like Transformers. Like,
well,
go ahead.
Go ahead, finish it.
No, I was going to say, I wonder if there's certain lines that people are just going to lose interest in after, like, we get to a certain age and we're not the ones consuming it anymore. Like right now, it's the height of nostalgia. All the 80s kids are 40, and they're buying all these things, trying to recapture that youth, having a little fun. Now it's cool to wear He-Man t-shirts. And maybe in the 90s, I probably wouldn't have wore this out loud. I would have probably, like, Mike and I went to school together and we would talk about comic books, but we kind of like chatted about it on the side. We didn't exactly like wear Superman t-shirts.
You're under the bleachers.
Yep.
So, but that's funny because like you mentioned it is like all the stuff that we were made fun of, right? Geez, like I mean, I'll just something that and it's not a crazy show, but like the classic DuckTales, like I loved classic DuckTales, but God forbid you're like a high school kid in like 1995 being like, oh, DuckTales is awesome, right?
Meanwhile,
but now
we all went home and watched Disney Afternoon.
And then
liars. There's two different people who love Disney Afternoon and dirty liars.
No, it is a phenomenon that today pop culture is nerd culture or nerd culture is pop culture. They go hand in hand. And it's movies. And that's actually like segues into something I was going to say before when you were talking about Star Wars being evergreen or like what makes kids want to buy into these things. It's successful movies. Look what the MCU did. Look what it did. What?
They Iron Man relevant.
Dude, they didn't care.
Iron Man before Robert Downey Jr.
No one cared. And so, we had our Batman movies in the 90s, and there were a couple comic book movies. We can't pretend there were no comic book movies, but they were kind of usually. They were goofy.
Right.
They were
comic
corny.
book movies, yeah. They tried to make you not realize they were comic book movies. They like did everything to make you think they weren't comic books, like Blade. They're like, this is definitely not based on a comic, whatever you guys think.
Yeah. And then you had, again, like the Batman movies, which Batman and Batman Returns had a little bit of grit, but then the other ones just kind of like they're like, oh, you think Adam West Batman's cheesy? Let's up that ante. I mean, early comic books were kind of corny. Grit didn't start happening until it was a response from the cheese of the late 90s. I think that's not a professional diagnosis. Those are my feelings, but look what the MCU did. I mean, look at the new Snake Eyes movie. I know for a fact that Hasbro is, I don't want to use the word banking, but very hopeful that will bring children into G.I. Joe because they're going to go see the movie with mom or dad. Let's keep it egalitarian. They're going to go see the movie with mom or dad, and they're going to be like, who are these characters? Same thing goes for like the new Mortal Kombat movie, any revival. And I'm sure that's what Mattel's hoping for with whatever new He-Man property, if that live action one's ever coming out, whatever's going on there. Those are the ways that that it stays relevant with current children, because I don't know why they don't want to watch He-Man from when we were kids. It was hilarious, but now He-Man's not allowed to be hilarious. Hilarious He-Man is like, no, we don't talk about goofy filmation He-Man. No, now we talk about like swole He-Man who's very serious. It's just different.
Speaking of G.I. Joe, you just mentioned it. Our buddy Kevin Collazo writes, I feel G.I. Joe will be around for another 30 to 40 years. Its foundation is predicted on real-world understanding of the conflict between justice and oppression. And I think that's a lot of these properties, too. Like, something like Superman, Batman, like they all have, like, those.
That's how they related to kids. It was about, it's something basic in it. It was, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys.
Right. Bingo.
And
you nailed it.
That's inherently what, as a kid, you wanted to do and what you would emulate the heroes. And then sometimes also enjoy the dastardliness of bad guys. Because I don't care what you say, all the Cobras are much cooler than the Joes. All the vehicles are better.
They're evil. Like the bad guys in those cartoons where good is good and bad is bad, the stakes are very low and it's easy for kids to understand. Like I remember as a kid, I didn't want to watch G.I. Joe. I was like, oh, it's so boyish, it's so masculine. And if I just watched, I'd realize there was like lizard dudes, Russian, Soviet, Austrian babes, silver guys, and freaking ninjas. Like I didn't know.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I didn't know. That's goofy.
And a lot of those things weren't built. They were never intended or designed to attract female audiences. And I think what you said earlier too about, you mentioned Pokemon. I think once Pokemon and Power Rangers started to hit, I think that really started bridging it, becoming more not just socially acceptable, but pretty much expected that girls were getting into more genre stuff, collecting action figures, playing cards. I really, and that was a mid-90s thing.
Sailor Moon, dude.
Yeah,
Sailor Moon did it.
Yeah, I mean, anime as a general, as a general thing, it was the animation had a softer line to it. It was more approachable. And I think that they delved into more storylines. Just the storylines were a little more complicated. They weren't just about like this episode is the ending of this episode. It was like they had, and I think those things attracted female audiences. And then when that happened, that's really when a lot of multimedia really started exploding, once it just stopped being just about selling toys to boys. Well,
exactly. I was going to say the 11-minute format with no overlying story arc is what makes it so that none of us can remember things. Like if someone said like, hey, Loryn, did you like Count Duckula? I'm like, hell yeah, I loved Count Duckula. I can sing the theme song. And then they'll be like, can you tell me like a full
Danger
episode?
Mouse.
And I'm like, no.
Danger Mouse. I love Danger Mouse.
You're a Danger Mouse fan? Yeah, I was a Duckula kid. Or like, for example, the Beetlejuice cartoon. Someone could say to me, like, did you watch Beetlejuice? I'm like, I love the Beetlejuice cartoon. I saw like 1 million episodes. And they're like, what happened in one? I don't know.
Not a clue.
Him and Lydia went on an adventure.
Yeah, it was just those quick 11-minute, like, if they had story arcs, which Western cartoons do today as a response to the toy commercials we were fed, where we don't actually remember very many of the stories. I remember a lot of Alvin and the Chipmunks. I remember those storylines. That stayed in there.
I think probably in here in the States, some of the earlier shows from at least our childhood that had those like overarching gargoyles, definitely.
Pirates was response to Batman, the animated series.
Well, Batman, but even Batman, like if you missed an episode of Batman, it wasn't a big deal. Like because like I'm showing those to my son now for the first time, and like we're definitely skipped because some of them are a little too deep for him, being 8 years old. So we're skipping through to the cool villains, and they're all cool villains. But like Gargoyles, like if you missed an episode, like you were kind of lost. Pirates of Dark Water is another one that was kind of like serialized that you especially for the first 5 parts of that you needed to see those. Otherwise the rest of Saturday morning and after school, if you miss one, like I mean, like to this day, I probably can put on like again going back to like a DuckTales, I'll be like, oh, I totally forgot about this episode,
Right.
and even like in a Scooby-Doo or any of that stuff, like. There are so many of those things that I've never even seen. Like, then
You know what's funny too about all the stuff that we've mentioned, and we talked about every single thing. Probably the biggest overarching brand that's defeated all the things we talked about, and none of us have brought it up and are nostalgic about it, is Ninja Turtles.
Mm.
And Ninja Turtles is a weird thing. It's like it's almost always somebody's favorite, and also everybody loves Ninja Turtles, but like. And I think everybody collecting Ninja Turtles, watching Ninja Turtles, you can watch any episode at any time of any iteration, because I think it's probably one of the most, like, every series that's come out has been good or relevant in some way, shape, or form. Like even the most recent one, The Rise of Ninja Turtles, is actually a really good show. But like also like very rarely, like when everybody brings up their favorites, especially in our age group.
Yeah.
It's never Ninja Turtles.
That's funny. And I watched a bunch. I watched a bunch of Ninja Turtles. I used to watch it before school while I was pretending to put my shoes on. So
yeah, and those Turtles, the Playmates toy line, that had to be the biggest toy seller out of all the ones we even mentioned. It destroyed all those other lines, and those are major lines.
Yeah, no, you're right. We haven't brought up Ninja Turtles yet. I don't know why. I used to watch it. I watched it casually.
Me too.
I watched it in the mornings. And I liked it. And again, it's another show that I watched probably the first 2 or 3 seasons. And then I rewatched the first season because my daughter was curious about it last year. And just doesn't. And I have a really good memory, but it doesn't retain. I just remember the episode I do remember is the one where Shredder gets hypnotized. And so every time he hears the word Shredder, he switches off between like good and bad. So like he's hanging out in the sewer with Michelangelo, and they're making a pizza. And he's like, hey, can you hand me the cheese shredder? And then here's like, Shredder. And then he goes evil again. He like tweaks out. That's the only episode I can like always pull out of the memory pockets. But everything else, I'm like.
The computer animated Nickelodeon series that was out before this most recent one, I watched with my boys because it was very relevant to all 3 of them in like their age group. And I have to say, overall, from beginning to end, that's one of the best animated cartoons I've seen ever. It holds up. It's awesome.
That's cool.
You could watch it as an adult and enjoy it, and the kids love it. It's really good. But again, it's like cool. But my kids they had a couple of the toys, but they didn't necessarily like when we went to the toy store. It was like, oh, I need that.
Yeah.
Guy. And even me, like I had Ninja Turtle toys as a kid though, but they were kind of. I enjoyed them and I enjoyed the show, and everybody has, and it sold more than anything. I feel like everybody just kind of really liked it. And I don't know, like, I'm sure there's people out there that are absolutely Ninja Turtle nuts, but I just always find that when talking about it with our age group, it's never brought up. It never seems to be super nostalgic, but it's also the tsunami of brands. It's like, it crushes everything else.
That's a really good point. Well, I mean, like, let's look at they're really generous with that license. So NECA has it, Super 7 has it, and Playmates is still making they're putting out a couple of box sets of the like reprints of the 90s ones, like the original molds and stuff like that, to the point where I'm like, I feel like the market they're very readily available is what I'm trying to say, except for those NECA ones. I know we all had trouble finding the Toon ones and the Walmart Explain. Don't at me. I know there's been tough times with like the Super Shredder. I know. But the thing with like the NECA Turtles is like they'll release the movie ones and be like, this is a Comic-Con exclusive, and everyone kills each other to get it. And then they're like, oh, now we're repackaging it in a 2-pack. Just kidding, don't kill each other. And then we're like, okay, well, then I'll buy this 2-pack, and then it's really hard to get again. Oh, now we're repacking it in like a 1.5-pack. Just kidding, don't kill each other. It's like, I don't know about anyone else, but if I collected the NECA Turtles, I would just be tired of this like emotional like turmoil. Like I couldn't go through it anymore.
Yeah, no, I haven't collected any of them, but I do watch. I'm in a lot of different fan groups, which is how we ran across each other, chit-chatting and commenting on other people's posts. And I noticed that there's like a huge thing about the turtle things. And like, there's been a couple of times where like in the store and like I'd seen a stack of Krangs and I'm like, I feel like I should tell people about this, but I don't know. I don't care. Like, I don't care. It's not my brand, but I was like, this is going to be a good day for somebody. I can't wait till somebody finds this giant stack of Ninja Turtle toys.
You know, I just want to go back to toys for a minute again, because you're talking about this good day for people. Some Starbucks pointed out in here. We were talking about this: buy everything twice, store one, open your warehouse in 20 years. Loryn, I'm going to ask you, and I know Vinny's opinion on this, and I teeter on this. You spent $14 on that. I'm waiting till those are clear. Are you you advocate opening or closing? Because had I known.
Oh, poor Kara.
Poor Kara too. Because I mean, toys should be open, right?
It's completely up to you. My goodness, bro, I'm gonna go off on a tangent right now. I have so much fatigue. How much everyone thinks it's everyone else's business what other people do with their collections. Like, I am not even kidding. I've seen pictures in toy groups where people are like, you're doing it wrong. This is how I pose my toys. This is how I display them. I open, you need to do, oh my gosh.
Have conversations about that.
It's tiresome, man. Like, if you're telling me what I should do with my toys, like what other opinions do you have about what I should do with my X, Y, and Z? Like, it's so no one's business. If there wasn't for people who hoard in their warehouse for 20 years, we wouldn't have things from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. If we didn't have people who stuffed things in attics and forgot about them, we wouldn't have these like mysterious, like case fresh, I know that's warehouse typically, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I really think people should do absolutely anything they want with their collection, from stacking boxes to posing on shelves to being tired of their collection and selling it and then collecting something else, and then you're done with that and then you put it away and like rotate your stock. Like, this isn't even, for me, this isn't even a dirty topic, because I'm always just going to be like, you do exactly what you want with the thing you spent your money on. It's no one's business.
And James just wrote here, I personally don't open my collection. If I do, I save boxes. And I think there's a lot of collectors that do that.
Cool. And enjoy every minute of collecting that collection and doing exactly as you want with it. You're not hurting anyone.
Honestly, to me, some of the packaging is part of the appeal. Like, I really appreciate not just the actual figure itself and the sculpts and but also like the commercial art that the packaging itself is. Like, I happened upon a bunch of carded Batman the Animated Series figures. And I got them for a pretty decent price, and like, they're figures actually I never even had as a kid, but like, they look so cool in the package. Like, I don't even have the heart, and it's not that I don't want to open them, it's just that I enjoy them on the card, and I rip open toys too, so it's like I'm both. Yeah. I never buy two of the same figure either. I'm not one carded, have one open guy. I just can't. It's just not for me.
And again, too, I mean, like you're spending, and I mean, again, like Loryn, you said, you're spending your money on this stuff, so do with it as you please. But like, I'm one. There you go. There's a star screen.
Yeah, the packaging's so cool, man. Like the art and stuff. Like, it's neat.
But that's the thing is, I was one of the many people who invested in the Razor Crest. That's coming out. And again, to what you were saying, that there are so many people who are online, like that is going to be a cool toy. That's just going to be a cool toy. Yeah. And people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to open my Razor Crest. And people are like, okay, so you're going to spend $400 to like just look at a box, and again, the box is going to look cool. But I mean, like, yeah.
No, and it's funny. You bring up a good point. You just struck something in my head. I feel like when toys are, that when they're very expensive or like very cheap, like just tchotchke, like open it up, throw the box away, like for me. And then when things are more expensive, like I recently bought those the Mega House, the Blitzway Inspector Gadget set. Oh. And I had to open that because it was just boxes with no window packaging. Like, you have to open that because it looks so good just displayed. Like, I don't care if I spent $200 on it. I need a diorama of Inspector Gadget freaking flying because he's always on duty. And then of course, like the other more expensive statues or toys that I have, I definitely, they're art pieces for me. I have to open them. But the things I don't open are like NECA. I don't open NECA, and it's not as of like any rule. I just like the way that they look in the box. Let's see here. Let's see, what else do I not open? I have some Super 7 in box still. Reaction figures, I think, look nice on the card. So yeah, those are kind of things in like the $20-$30 range. Yeah. Unless there's specific products, I kind of keep them in the box.
Yeah, I feel like the reaction figures are built to stay in the packaging. You know,
They look really nice.
Yeah.
Because
I have a whole bunch of reaction figures that I just keep them on the card.
Yeah, and again, because I think with those ones, it is like you look at the Masters of the Universe ones; those are the first ones that popped in my head. The artwork is nice on those cards, you know. And I mean, there's many other options if you want Masters of the Universe figures as well at this point now. I mean, so you can go around and get those things.
I have the last wave of Super 7 before Mattel reclaimed the rights. Back when you could get like really nice Super 7 figures for like $20, and I treasure those, and they're never coming out of the packages.
So I was reading that Mattel is losing the Masters of the Universe license in a couple of years. Is that real?
To who? It's theirs.
That they licensed it out to Universal, and Universal. They licensed it out to Universal quite a few years ago. They reclaimed it, and Universal is going to retain the rights, and that's why they're going hard and heavy with all this Masters of the Universe stuff right now and the 2 animated series.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
I don't know if that's true, but it would make sense now because them coming out with like back-to-back different animated series is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. They are making 2. They announced the live action movie in 2018, and there's been like no movement on it. If it happens, I think it'll be direct to streaming. That's just my prediction. And then they announced the two animated series. One is kid focused, and one is Kevin Smith's Vanity Project.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a continuation of the original 80 series.
But then I saw the artwork for it, and it's like I don't know how this is a continuation.
They don't know how to make it funny. No.
The same team that did Castlevania on Netflix.
Yeah,
the animation team.
I maintain, and this is just again my own opinion, is that I feel that we'll never see a goofy Masters of the Universe again. I think that the franchise at this point is taken so seriously that it's just going to be any animated or live action iterations that come out are just going to be very like, oof, swole, boy versus uncle He-Man. Right. Like it's not going to be, we're never going to see comedy He-Man again. That's my opinion.
No,
I would love to be proven wrong, but
and ironically enough, the line was actually meant to be a super like sword and sorcery Conan-y type of thing. Yeah. And then when they licensed it out and they saw the He-Man, they were like, this isn't what we thought. And then it crushed it on TV. So they were like, absolutely, keep making more.
Well, I mean, listen, the whole story of Filmation, like there's a great book about Lou Scheimer wrote the book. It's a great book, and it really tells you the whole story of like He-Man, but just the whole company overall. I mean, he really, outside of like Hanna-Barbera, they were the last 2 really standing animation studios at the time in Los Angeles, for Filmation and Hanna-Barbera. And just on side note about Filmation, I forget which, there was like a makeup company that bought them at the end that promised him, oh yeah, we're gonna keep, and he writes about it in a chapter book. Oh, we're gonna keep everybody's jobs, and then he came in and they're like, yeah, we closed down the whole animation thing.
Dude, it crushes my heart. All the animation studios that disappeared: Ruby Spears, Deke, Cinar, which was Canadian, but like all of those, they're all gone, man. And it's like freaking Miramax. Although I shouldn't have nobody should have the warm and fuzzies for Miramax, but they were a thing. They existed.
Yeah, but I mean, I think some of them have got like obviously Ruby Spears and Hanna-Barbera are kind of rolled into the Warner Brothers world now, because I mean, you see Space Jam, and there's like so many, that new Space Jam. There's so many throwbacks to Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers in there.
Oh, Warner Brothers.
Ruby Spears, I should say.
If Warner Brothers can be consistent for more than one project at a time, they'd be impressive. They can only seem to, like, they're 1 for 50 every time. But Space Jam looks good.
No, it's going to be a fun movie, I think. Other shows, and I know Vinny and I have talked about this. Like we've talked about Ninja Turtles, we've talked about He-Man and stuff. I mean, Loryn, what are some other, I guess, I don't want to say nostalgic, but now nostalgic shows that you'd like to see back? I mean, I'll throw Vinny's and mine favorite one out there, but or Gargoyles.
But at least the old one's available to watch now, right? On Disney Plus. Dude, I'll be honest, I don't want anything to come back because it always comes back wrong. Like, for example, I remember like, Are You Afraid of the Dark is coming back. Yeah. Oh my God. And then you see what it is and you're like, bro. Or like Goosebumps is coming back. No way. And you see it and you're just like, oh. And it's not just because like I'm old. Like I'm more than happy to dive into kids media because I can enjoy media for any age group, and like as long as you don't put the standards up here, like if you're watching The Babysitter's Club, it's not going to be like a slice of life drama for 40-year-old women. Like no,
good reboots can happen. Good reboots can happen. Voltron
sure they
Legendary
can.
Defender is an example of a good reboot.
But the question was, what do you want to see come back? Nothing off the top of my head. Like, again, I talked about Alvin and the Chipmunks earlier. There's haven't you seen the 2015 one? My kids love it.
What is it? That Alvin? No, but they look so weird.
But it's theirs. It's not for you. The same thing. Like people freaked out when Teen Titans Go was announced because Teen Titans so serious and it's the number one show for kids.
Well, think about Thundercats Go, right?
What was that?
Thundercats Go.
I was gonna say Thundercats also. Yeah.
I never even saw it. Did it even come out? I think they killed it.
There was there were a couple Thundercats, and then then we have She-Ra, mixed results. Like what do I want to come back? My freaking VCR so I can watch the old ones, dude. That's what I want to come back. I don't have a working VCR anymore.
Tubi. I watch them on Tubi. They're all on Tubi.
Inspector Gadget's on Tubi.
Is it?
Yeah.
I would love to see some new IP. I agree with you, Loryn. Like I'm all about new IP. As much as I am nostalgic and my heart would bleed tears of joy if they came out with something new with Gargoyles because I enjoy that. I'd love to see like an animated film or something, or a continuation. But I do enjoy new IP, and whenever I see a new movie that comes out or something that's not in one of these tentpole franchises, I really do my best to try to support it. Or even something like when the pandemic first hit, Bloodshot came out.
Yes.
And like I did my best to like try to encourage people to buy it and watch it, even though it may or may not have stunk. Because I was like, I would love to see more stuff from Valiant. They have so much good IP there, not Marvel or DC. I want to see some other things. But yeah, I would love to see some newer IP come out as well. Like it's tough. I mean, there's a lot of good cartoons, Regular Show, Adventure Time, Gumball, like those are all good things that have come out over the last 10 years that are really great. So there's definitely room for new stuff.
100%. And there's a push in animation right now and because I do a little bit of like animation, like side crap on the side, I'm not just, but there is a push in animation for new IP, new stories, marginalized characters. So there's good stuff coming. And, not to say that there can't be good reboots or continuations, expanding of worlds. We love The Mandalorian. We all love, right? Yeah, we all love The Mandalorian.
Scoop was really good.
There you go. Scooby-Doo has continued to be enormous on the international market. That's what keeps it alive. It's the same as Ben 10.
And let's just go to. And I mean,
we can do a whole podcast on Ben 10.
we could do a whole podcast on Scooby-Doo too.
Ben 10 is this weird thing, that original IP that came out 15 years ago, that's really like lasted. And
same thing with Avatar: The Last Airbender, dude. I mean, they're making an animation studio because it can't be contained anymore. And I love Avatar, and I will consume any bit of media that comes out, with it. I wasn't so in love with Korra, but I think if Korra was made today, it would have been made with better sensibilities. But it has its fans. I'm not crap talking.
Mm-hmm. I mean, another one too, a toy line. They're bringing. I see Monster High's coming back. They're doing like a new series and a live action film too.
Oh, really? Monster High.
If they can ever unravel the rights, I would love to see them do something with Robotech. I was a huge Robotech fan.
Robotech. Yeah, that's in
Macross and all the things. But like that's such a muddled mess. I don't know if they'll ever see anything.
You see, I was gonna say you see new Valkyries coming out every now and again.
Yeah, toys will come out, but I would love to see them do it like a film or a reboot of the animated series.
Voltron managed. Voltron did it.
I love Legendary Defender, like I said before. That's one of my favorite things to come out animated in a long time.
And then we'll go back to Disney Afternoon. DuckTales was a huge hit, that series that they did on Disney. And some people loved it, some people hated it, but I loved it. Huge.
David Tennant, his Uncle Scrooge. Come on, man.
We have a couple of minutes too, because I know Loryn has to head out in a few, so I just want to start to wrap up here. So first of all, I just want to say check out toy-wizards.com and troublemakerservices.com. Loryn, if there's anything else you want to plug where people can check you out, things that are coming up, go right ahead.
Oh my gosh, I am so all over the place. Okay, so yeah, for toy news and toy coverage, it's at toy-wizards.com. We're on all the social medias and YouTube. We do toy reviews and have discussions about what's happening with toys. I have PopLurker, which is general pop culture, poplurker.com. I am directing people to Troublemaker Services because that's basically Scott and my convention portfolio site, that if you want to see what shows that we run or have worked on freelance, or if you are a convention promoter who needs some consulting done, we offer that service. So I'm just putting you over there because our shows are starting to come back. California is reopening. Awesome. And so we get to edge back into the convention world. I am of course we all want to do this safely. Like we can't all just race out that gate, but like we're all trying so hard. And so I'm gonna allow myself some excitement for the return of the convention world. So that's what Troublemaker Services is. So you can see all the shows that Scott and I do in the Los Angeles area.
Nice.
I'm planning a San Diego Comic-Con trip in 2022, man. So
I'll be there. Well, high five.
So I guess so we'll just wrap up here now. Once again, I want to thank Loryn. Thank you so much for joining me and Vinny here tonight. Definitely, I'd love to have you come back, pick like a thing. We were kind of all over the place, like Ben 10, Scoob, whatever it is, and like have a night we can talk about one of those things. That'd be fantastic.
I can't Ben 10, bro.
There's so much more. So Thean, thank you so much for joining us here tonight on Incredicat.
Thank you for inviting me. Honestly, this was a lot of fun. You guys rock. I hope I did your show justice.
Fantastic. We got a lot. And I apologize we didn't get to everybody's comments. But we can go back.
We're getting crushed with comments and questions.
Yeah. So all kinds of stuff. So they want you back, Loryn.
I'll come back. Let's rock.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I just want to give a quick plug for next week. We will not have for everybody watching at home, you guys can be the guest because we're going to be doing a live drink and draw over in Poughkeepsie, New York. So come and be the guest on IncrediChat next week. And then the following week, we'll be over at the Bill Diamond Studios here in the Hudson Valley. So once again, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Vinny, thank you for joining us here tonight, too. It's great to always have you with us.
Anytime.
Loryn, thank you so much. If you just want to hang out a second while we wrap up backstage, and we'll see everybody next week on IncrediChat. Be well.
Bye. Later, guys.